If there's one thing I could tell you and go back and tell myself as a first-time homeschooling mom, it would be that homeschool schedules were never meant to be written in stone. Every season of your homeschooling is different, and sometimes it's going to be different even month to month, let alone year to year. So be flexible with your homeschool schedule. Today, I want to share with you guys what our homeschool schedule is looking like mid-year and some of the tips and tricks that we give you as you are looking into adapting, changing, or creating a new homeschool schedule for yourself. So let's get started. The first big tip when it comes to homeschool schedules and making sure to create a schedule that works for you is to incorporate movement. I don't care whether you have pre-K kids, toddlers, all the way up to teens, they need to be moving their bodies, and it does help their brains to be able to focus better on their school. So I personally suggest starting out your day with some kind of movement. For us, we start this right at 8 o'clock. We do World Watch News, and then we do a workout on YouTube. This has been a huge help and has been something we've been doing for quite a few years now and has really helped them to come to the table completely focused. Next step on our schedule is working with my daughter with special needs. My two youngest are not quite ready to go to school at Wendy's house yet, so they go and watch a morning playlist of videos that I've curated specifically for them to work on different topics, like doing their own schoolwork, and I am working with my fourth child specifically. We are not working on school quite yet, but we are working on different things to help build her body and her mind. So during that morning work period with her, we are going through things like we start out taking her blood pressure because she has been diagnosed with secondary hypertension and has to have her blood pressure checked regularly every single day. We also then will go and do one of her breathing exercises, her calming and relaxing exercises. This is using a program that our hospital gave us and is having us utilize with her therapy. But if you are looking for something that you can utilize with your kids to help them work on regulating their breathing and to help them calm down, I recommend the free app Breathe to Relax. We also use that when we don't have access to the computer, and it really just helps your child to work on those skills of sort of self-regulating and helping them to calm down. Next up, we work on some of her vestibular therapy exercises. She is working on different eye movements and kind of tracking and strengthening the connection there that helps her reduce the amount of headaches she has as well as other symptoms. And so we do those therapy exercises at home, and then we wrap up this sort of morning session with her working on some of our meditating on God's Word. So we're using sort of a new system that we're kind of trying out where she goes through a different verse of the Bible every single day. It's just one verse, but we go to it and we kind of talk about it multiple times a day. Actually, it's 5 times a day that we check in. We ask a few different questions each time and kind of just practice meditating on God's Word in that way. And that brings me to our second tip. That is to make sure that everyone understands the expectations of where they are expected to be and what they are expected to be doing. With this, like I mentioned, I'm working with my fourth child. My 3 older ones are off working. My younger 2 are working on this playlist. Having an idea of where everybody should be and making sure that's clearly communicated is super helpful. We, after this, transition to a time where I take Olivia and Mackenzie, my little ones, over to Wendy's house from Plan Prep Pray, where they are currently being homeschooled. If you want to know more about that, be sure to check out this video up in the iCards or down in the description below. But this is a time that they go off to do school there, and then I transition to working with my oldest. My oldest son has high functioning autism and sensory processing disorder, as well as auditory processing disorder and a couple other things. With all of this, he needs still more hands-on, one-on-one interaction. So we have been using a language arts block first thing in the morning that lasts anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the day. We are working through IEW structure and style together. We are also going through the Diana Craft Right Brain reading program. We work on reading lists, we work on vocabulary, spelling, reading an actual book. During this time, my other 2 are upstairs working on their own work, like teaching textbooks, redefining school, things like that. And my fourth daughter, the one with special needs, is working on IXL. We decided to incorporate that this year so that she could kind of work on some of the things where there might be holes here or there and really give her a lot more review. So she does about an hour to an hour and a half time slot of working on IXL, and she absolutely loves it. After I'm done working with our oldest, I transition to snack time. Now, this is another big tip, is to have designated snack times, as kids love to eat 24/7 within your homeschool, at least if they're anything like mine. After snack time, that is when I set aside time to work with both of my older daughters on some therapy exercises. Our oldest daughter we're still kind of exploring a diagnosis, but we are thinking that she might have arthritis as well, just like her younger sister. And so one of the exercises that her occupational therapist has her doing is exercising and moving all of her joints every single day. So we have brought her sister in on that as well. During this time, we also work on our thankfulness cards. This is something that I have on my Etsy store that is available to you guys. You can see it down in the link below. But this is something I created to kind of help work on being very mindful of being thankful throughout the day. As we work on taking care of the whole body, we want to make sure that that gratefulness is something that we build in and incorporate into our day. So they each pick 2 cards, they share things that they're thankful for, and then we do another check-in, our second check-in on our meditating on the verse of the day. At this point, all 3 of my oldest are upstairs working with their subjects. Again, they have a lot of what they do is very independent, but then I work with my 4th child. We sit down at the table and we start working on her schoolwork. Now, here's another tip for you when it comes to your homeschool schedule. Make sure if you're having trouble getting to the things you need to get through every day, make sure you prioritize the most important thing to you first. Now, there have been different seasons of life that have called for this to look a little bit different. Sometimes I want to start with something fun and save something harder till later in the day, but typically a good rule of thumb is to kind of start with the hardest or the most important thing in the day. So for us, we always start with Bible. We were working on the My God Says journal from Not Consumed Ministries. We then go into math with Matthew C. And then finally, we end up doing our All About reading, and we're focusing on that right now. Then, if there is time, which there usually is, we work on our life skills with the book that I just recently got that I shared with you guys. We work on our life skills. We're currently working on dissecting our address, making sure that she can spell our address, be able to write it out, to fill out forms, that she can answer just one part of the question of what's just your street address or what's just your city, things like that. After this time, we transition into another kind of workout mental check-in time. This is just something that we do a lot in our homeschool, and I think that's our next tip, is to remember that if you have kids with special needs, to understand that mental health, to understand that those therapy exercises or going to therapy are part of their schoolwork. It is part of what they need to develop and work on. And right now, academics is something we are definitely doing with my daughter, but the other stuff is sort of taking the kind of the front seat right now, because we really have to focus on a lot of that because of other health things that are happening. So we move into that next time. We do another meditation time on her verse. We also we alternate between an occupational therapy exercise or physical therapy exercises, but these both have bands, exercise bands, or harder exercises that she has to work with. And so this is a good time to do this right before lunch or right after lunch, depending on the day. At 12 o'clock, I go and I pick up my 2 youngest from Wendy's house. They have had a great day of fun. If you guys want to hear about how she schedules out that time and what they're doing, you can check out the video up in the iCards or down in the description below. But we next move into lunch. The kids just grab leftovers or sandwiches. That's pretty much what we have every single day. And then they will bring that in, and they'll usually either sit in the living room on the floor or sit in the dining room. And we do geography during that time. We're watching through a playlist of different videos that I put together through several different resources. And then we talk about that and they write down fun facts about it. We also then move into our biblio plan and listen to our history on audiobook again while they're eating, and then we're able to discuss that as well. Now you'll notice here that I don't have specific times attached to everything. I have general time frames, like while the girls are gone at school, I try to get these things done, but I don't worry about getting into like this has to be from 9 to 9:30 or anything like that, because we have to build in buffer in our life specifically. But I would recommend everybody builds buffer into their homeschool day to some extent, as every day is going to vary by attitude, by the material you're covering or just circumstances that come up. One of the next tips that I wanted to share is building in pickup times. So homeschoolers, the house can tend to get messy really fast. We've got books everywhere, we've got all these things happening. So we always, after lunch, after that history time and that geography time, we stop everything and we do a blitz of the house of just the main floor. And we focus on like unloading and loading the dishwasher. We pick up all the books. I try to clear off the laundry off of my couch and get all of that stuff picked up, and it helps us to have a better afternoon. We then transition to quiet time. This is 1 hour where my kids lay down for quiet time, from tots all the way up to teens, and they can read, they can listen to an audiobook, they can play quietly, but they must stay in their own beds and there must be no talking. That brings me to my next tip. Build in a little bit of extra time at the end of the day for catch up. And what this looks like for us is we have a 1 hour mandatory study hall, because for lack of a better term, that we have when everybody gets up from quiet time. So usually they get up between 2 and 2:30, and for the next hour we set an alarm and everybody has to do something to continue learning. What this provides is an opportunity that if I had an appointment earlier in the day with my daughter, I can catch up and work with her during that time. If a kid needs help with math, they can ask dad, or they can ask me to help them with that math problem. If all my kids are all caught up on all their work, they got everything done, no issues, they can have time designated and carved out that they can go learn about something they've been interested in, to work on a project or learn how to draw something or read more. And I really have found this to be a really beautiful time in our homeschool day where we're not missing as much due to craziness that might come up throughout the day, but we're also making sure that we're getting to being able to help with anything that might have been missed and carving out extra learning time. If you want to learn more about why I'm not homeschooling two of my kiddos, be sure to check out the video here.